Welcome to Remote Learning Lesson 19. Today's lesson is dividing decimals with two-digit divisors. Today's LEQ is, how can I find quotients by dividing multi-digit decimal or whole number dividends by two-digit divisors? The objective for today is, I can divide whole numbers and decimals by two-digit divisors. Problem number 1. Problem number 1 is set up where it's split up into three different parts. The left side is going to be our rounded divisors skip counts. Our right-hand side is going to be multiplication that we're going to try to see if it's a correct number to go into our quotient. And in the middle will be our division. So let's set up our garage in the middle. We'll set up our garage, we'll add our divisor and our dividend, our three lines, and then off to the left-hand side, we're going to skip count by 30. And the reason why we're going to choose 30 is because when you round 32 to its leading digit, which is the 3, 2 will not be able to round the 3, so 3 will stay the same, and you'll skip count by 30s. And 32 is closest to 30. Remember, you're going to skip count the first 9, so you're going to skip count from 30 to 270. And just be thoughtful for the fact that this is not skip counting by 32s. 32 is a larger number than 30. So that means every single one of your products that you're going to be thinking of it should be a little bit bigger than what you see on the left-hand side. Now let's start to divide. 32 cannot go into 9, so we're going to put a 0 up. But 32 can go into 90. Now, if you look at the list of 30, 30 goes into 93 times. Now, I'm going to try it off to the side, but I'm pretty sure that 32 is going to be bigger. Off to the side, 32 times 3 is 96, which I was right, it is bigger. So I'm actually going to multiply 32 times 2. 32 times 2 is 64, and I'm going to use that instead. So that means I'm going to put my 2 up into my quotient, and I'm going to put my 64 below, draw my line, and subtract. Make sure you use your subtracting rules. When you subtract them, you get 26. You're going to bring down that 4 next to the 26, and now you have the number 264. 264 falls between 240 and 270, and I think that maybe 270 might be a little too high, so let's try 240. So I'm going to try the 240, and I'm going to do 32 times 8, and I got 256, which is perfect. Let's go ahead and use that. 8 on top, 256 down below, subtract with regrouping, and I get 8 as my remainder. Now remember, when you do decimals, you don't want to put an R and put the remainder up on top. We're going to add the decimal at the end of our dividend, and we're going to bring it up into our quotient, and then we're going to add a 0 in our dividend. So now it says 904 decimal 0. Draw the little line above the 0, and then bring it on down next to that 8. So now let's go ahead and look for a number that's closest to 80. Well, we know that we did 32 times 2, and it was 64. And we did 32 times 3, and it was 96. So we're going to have to use the 2 again. So 2 times 32 is 64. We're going to subtract. Again, we're going to use rounding rules, or subtracting rules. My apologies. And we get 16. So now we have 16. Again, we're going to follow that 0 rule. We're going to add a 0. We're going to put a line above it, and then we're going to bring it on down next to that 16, and you have 160. Now, when you look to the left-hand side, you're going to look for a number that's close to 160. I notice 150 is close to 160. So I'm going to try that. I'll do 32 times 5. That's perfect. 32 times 5 equals 160, and that's what I wanted. So that's perfect. 5 up, 160 down, subtract them, and I get 0. So my final answer is 28.25, or 28 and 25 hundredths. Let's move on to problem number 2. Problem number 2. 456 divided by 16. Let's go right ahead, and let's go ahead and make that garage. The garage goes in, 16 goes on the outside as your divisor, and 456 goes on the inside as your dividend. I have 3 lines to represent those 3 numbers that are in my dividend, and I'm going to round that 16 to its leading digits. The 6 is a strong arm. It's going to make that 1 turn into a 2, so I'm going to skip count by 20s. I'm also going to keep in mind that 16 is 4 digits smaller than 20, so that I have to keep that in mind when I'm looking at my left-hand side to see which one would be a best fit for me to try. Let's start dividing. 16 can't go into 4, but it sure can go into 45. 20 times 2 is 40. So let me try what 16 times 2 is. That's 32. Should I try 3? No, I think 2 is good. Let's subtract and try. And we'll see if our answer to our division problem is smaller or bigger than 16. When I subtract 45 and 32, I get 13. 13 is actually smaller than 16, so I know that I'm doing this right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down that 6, and now I have 136. 136 falls in between 120 and 140. And since I know that 16 is a smaller number than 20, I'm going to actually try this number that would make 140, which would be 16 times 7. And when I multiply 16 times 7 off to the right, I notice it's 114. And I'm thinking, maybe I should try 16 times 8, so it's not going to hurt to give it a try. 16 times 8 is perfect. It makes 128. So I'm going to pick 8 and 128, and I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 2. Don't forget your rounding rules. When I subtract, I get 8, and 8 is smaller than 16, so I am on a roll. Now I have a remainder, and I'm not allowed to have one, so I need to put my decimal in my dividend and bring it on up into my quotient. So my answer is going to say 28 and something. I'm going to add a 0 in my dividend, make my line, and bring it on down to that 8. So now I need to figure out how many 16 can go into 80. So I see there's an 80 right there off to the left-hand side. And I'm tempted to pick this 4. But the problem is that that's 20, and 20 goes into 84 times, but 16 is smaller, so I'm going to actually push myself to multiply by 5. 16 times 5 is 80, which is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to put my 5 up and my 80 below, and I'm going to subtract them, and I get zeros. So my final answer for problem number 2 is 28 and 5/10. Problem number 3. Let's go ahead and set this garage up. It's 48.36 divided by 39. 48 and 36 hundredths divided by 39. Let's go ahead and set it up. In the garage is 48.36. 39 is on the outside. I set up my quotient with line, line, decimal line, line. And now I'm going to round my 39 to its leading digit. 9 talks to the 3, makes that into a 40. So I know that I'm going to skip count by 40s. And 39 is only 1 digit away from 40, so I think that I'm going to make a good choice when I multiply off to the right. 39 cannot go into 4, but it can go into 48. And I think it can go into 48 probably only once, because if I did it twice, it'd be really close to 80. So I'm going to put my 1 up and my 39 down. I'm going to follow my subtracting rules, and I'm going to subtract these two and get 9. 9's great because 9 is smaller than 39, so I'm good to go. I'm going to bring down my 3, and now it says 93. I'm going to look over to the left, and I'm going to say, I wonder which number 39 can go into. Maybe twice. Off to the side, I want to multiply 39 times 2, and I get 78. That looks good. Let's go ahead and put that 2 up and that 78 down. Subtract using those subtracting rules, and I get 15. 15 is still good because 15 is smaller than 39. So I'm going to bring down my 6, and I have 156. Maybe 160. Maybe that looks good. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 hops down. 39 times 4, 156. That's perfect. I'm going to put my 4 up, my 156 down, subtract the 2, and get my zeros. So my final answer for this problem is 1.24, or 1 in 24 hundredths. Now it's your turn to complete your problem set and application problem independently. Please complete both and send me a picture. You can text it to me, you can email me, you can send it through Remind app, you can send it through the Google Classroom. I don't care which way you send it, just please send it to get credit for this lesson. Can't wait to see your work. Can't wait to see you again, boys. See you later.